Well, tonight's cross-border raids by Israeli forces were limited to raids searching for evidence of the whereabouts of hostages who were abducted during the Hamas attacks last weekend. Entirely different from the massive show of Israeli force that's now being assembled along the border with the Gaza Strip. And if these are indeed preparations for the widely expected ground invasion, then it looks like being on an unprecedented scale.
It's the biggest build-up of Israeli armour around Gaza there's ever been. This afternoon, all roads and dusty tracks led to muster points close to the border with the Strip. Here, the column held up motorists who didn't seem to mind, indeed honked their horns in support. The fact these preparations are still going on 1 week after the deadliest ever day for Israeli civilians points to a massive attack when the invasion order finally comes.
They went into Gaza in 2009 and 2014, but not in this kind of strength. Today, thanks to its reserves, Israel's army is 360,000 strong. That's twice the size it normally is.
As the tanks rolled, the Iron Dome interception system was busy stopping hundreds of Hamas rockets fired at Ashkelon and beyond. The few projectiles that got through did cause several casualties. This is the Israeli town of Sderot, the closest one to Gaza. The fact it's almost deserted makes it quiet, but don't mistake that for peace and quiet. Those are indiscriminate Hamas rockets striking nearby. Today, the Israelis released pictures of bodies piled up awaiting identification. The images provide a united society with yet more motivation for what lies ahead. For now, Israel is focused entirely on the destruction of Hamas, but there's no plan for afterwards, when the dust settles. Ironically, 20 years ago, Israel could see beyond America's rage following 9/11 and wisely cautioned against the Iraq invasion. Tonight, the people of Gaza must be worried that this country can't see beyond its own rage. John Irvine, News at 10, Southern Israel.
Well, let's go back now to John. His report on the Gaza evacuation you saw earlier, and John is now back in Tel Aviv. John, look, no one's quite clear when this deadline passes in Gaza. What's your sense of where we really are at this point tonight in this incredibly tense situation?
Well, I think to start in Gaza, Tom, the people there are well used, have become well used over the years to having to run from their homes in time of war, but never on this unprecedented scale. And from an Israeli point of view, the calculation is really brutal and it's really simple. They know that the more Palestinian civilians who die in this conflict, then the greater the pressure on Israel to bring to a premature halt their mission to bring down Hamas. So Israel has to at least give the warning, even if the warning is actually impossible to obey. To give you an idea of the chaos inside that tiny strip of land tonight, we've been back in touch with Plestia, who you saw in our report. And she tells us this, that she tried to reach her parents' home, but she couldn't find a car. She couldn't find a taxi. She couldn't walk all the distance. So tonight she is hunkered down in the main hospital in Gaza City, along with a lot of other people from there, because that hospital has always been a safe place at a time of war. But this time, Israel is giving no such guarantees.
Well, obviously, one of the big constraints on the Israelis, from their point of view, is the hostages. I mean, presumably they still have no idea where they are across Gaza.
You're right. The mission is to destroy Hamas. It is to bring, secondly, those hostages back. And that, Tom, explains in part the cross-border raid that you've been talking about. The IDF unusually revealing details of that today, saying that their elite teams have crossed the border in part to try to hunt down these hostages. My understanding tonight is that sadly all they found were the bodies of more Israelis murdered by Hamas.
OK, John, for now, thank you very much indeed.